Hello, welcome to Angular Services. My name is Chris and I'll be teaching you Angular Service. This is a little bit of a crash course on improving on Angular if you guys use Angular. If you don't, then that's fine. The prerequisites, I guess you can say, for Angular is a little bit of HTML, a little bit of CSS, and then it goes in depth with TypeScript, JavaScript, and whatnot. I'll be showing some components of this, but this isn't the video for that. Today, I'm going to be showing how to use the service option for Angular, and I'll get to that a little bit later. So first you want to do is get into my GitHub. My GitHub is up here. It's going to be accessible for anyone that use it. And what I want you guys to do is copy and paste this code, this link. Now the prerequisites for this course is going to be Video Studio Code. I can show you up here, so VS Code, and you can just go here and download Windows. I believe they do, they do Mac as well. And also we're going to do Git Bash download as well, has Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. And the last but not least, we're going to do Node. So Node, we just get the latest features, or the recommended one. They always go for the recommended one. I have these installed. The instructions that I have for on my PowerPoint in my Git repository shows you how to install all of these. So I'm not going to be going too much in depth. I'll kind of go through it a little bit, but for the most part, this is for people that have already downloaded it. And again, I do have all the instructions in my PowerPoint. So let's get started. So first, we go here, we copied it, and then you open up Git Bash. And you can open it here, or what I recommend is actually opening it in a folder and just name it a demo, because that's what we're going to be working with, demo right here. So then we can go in here and open it from here, I believe, or actually, yeah, right here, Git Bash here. So then right now you can just look at it, ls, these are some, yeah, you can see that there's nothing there. So what you need to do is type in git clone and then right click paste the link. And then once you do that, it codes all the information that's in that repository into your folder that you created. So now if you ls, you can see that there's now a folder there. So if we want to get into that folder, we just type in sid, and then obviously we're the master, and then we ls there, and we can see all the components. Now I tend to just keep this at a minimum here. I just want to clone it in, and that's all we're going to be using Git Bash for. It is very important, it's very useful. There are different videos on Git Bash and how to use it, but this is the only thing I'm going to use for this. So now we can just click out of here and we can just open up the command line. What I do is open up here and type in cm, and that usually brings up the command prompt, or you can just type in command prompt, or if you're on Mac, terminal. So then you go here, and I believe the same, they're the same type of what's it called, commands, except instead of dir for how it is in Windows, it's ls, I believe, for Mac. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So what we can do here is cd, that's all the same, and just do desktop slash demo slash sid. So that will get you all the way into the folder that is in here, right here, that we have. So that will show you how to, or that will get you into the folder. So if we dir here, we can see all the components that are in that folder. So now that you've checked the version of Node that you have after you installed it, you can go up here, open this, and open up your Angular, and go down to the prerequisites, and you can go npm install -g Angular CLI, so you can download the CLI for Angular. So you let that run, go through. You're gonna have a lot of warnings and everything, that's normal. And then now you go npm install. Okay, give it a good second to complete. Okay, so now we use ng serve-o. So ng serve-o is opening a browser to pop up the existing code. So the O is to open up the browser without you necessarily needing to copy and or type in the localhost or copy and pasting it, which it will show here. I forgot to do one thing. You can use code space dot to open up VS Code with the command line. So if you go here, we can see the demo, the sources, the apps, and everything. So now that we're here, we can do ng or npm install -g npm, and let's see, and please don't freeze, and it froze. Oh boy. Every time, it gets me every time. So okay. So now that you've opened your VS Code, now you can go here and ng serve-o, and it'll be a couple seconds. So it says here your global CLI is greater than location. You can use ng configuration, ng config CLI.co. Yeah, so you copy that and paste it there, and it should compile your code with no problems. Just give it a few seconds to compile. And now you can see that a browser has opened, and it shows the title of student information demo, and it tells you here. So student details, this is supposed to be lists, my apologies. We can actually change that right now that it's opened in the student list component in the HTML, I believe. So here, instead of student details, we can show student list. And would you like to name a new language? Do that later. And then we can just save it, and then we can just refresh it, and you can see now that it says student list instead of student details. So when we toggle through these buttons, we can see that one is for the list of names, and the other one is for a little bit of detail. And here we have an ID. We have an ID of 1 through 7, and then we have their name, of course, and their age number. Or their age. So if we go back to the code, we can see here that in the HTML there's not very much going on. However, in the components, you can see that we have a bit of stuff here. So here we have an array list of components here, and we have an ID, a name, and an age for this one, and this is for the list. As well, we can go to the details and see the exact same thing written here. Now, you can see here that we have two identical code, as you can see here, and there's something wrong with this. Clearly it's working. Clearly everything is, sufficient when you go to the browser and toggle through the buttons. However, this code is not correct. If we go back to the PowerPoint, we can see why this code is wrong. So this is a thing called dry coding. So the dry coding is an acronym for don't repeat yourself. So making copies of code, revisiting multiple classes to change the same code. So say, for example, we want to get rid of Anka, right here. We get rid of that and we run it, right? As you can see here, if we refresh it, Anka in the list is gone. However, Anka in the details is still there. So what do we need to do? We need to go back and we have to get rid of her here. No problem, you know? And as you can see, she's gone in both lists. Now, you can say that's, you know, proper. However, what if you have 10 components? What if you have 100 components that you have to change? You can't go toggling around every single component to just change one thing. Right now, I had to go to 2 different components in order to change one thing. So that's very, how should I say, very not right. So instead of doing that, there's a little bit more complex way of doing it, but in the long run, it saves a lot of time and a lot of memory when you're trying to be efficient with code. So let's bring this back here. We can see that. So if we go back here to the PowerPoint, we can you can see here the 2 classes going on and stuff. Sorry about that. So now we have a little bit of information about Angular services. So now Angular services is defined as a specific, it has one specific task it has to do. And that task can be anything. It can be used for sharing data. It can be used as a back end in Angular to test code. And it can also be a connector for a database. It has many services, but it has a specific task it needs to do. So as we go, we can get started now. So the first thing we need to do is make a service class. So in the service class, we have to go back to the command line, and we close this off and say yes. So now we have this command right here that says ng gs student. So ng is so what this means is ng global, I believe, service student. Now don't quote me on that. That's what I believe it says. So ng gs student, and we name it students because that's what we're working with, students, in this particular in this particular example. So as you can see now, you can see here that in the source app, in the app, student service spec was made and a student service.ts was made. So if we go back into VS Code and we go down, we can see here that we have these 2 components. Now we're not going to use this one, student service specs. That I believe this is for testing. So we're gonna go here and open up this one. This one we are going to use. So if we go back, we have to do a couple things before we start. So this is just to create the student service.ts class. So if we go now here, we have to go to the app module and add in and import this HTTP client model. Now this helps, as you can see in this diagram here, the student and detail list both go into the service that we've made. It gets the HTTP and requests from the database that we're going to make, and then it pushes it back in a response as a subscription. Now we'll get into that as well later in the subscription. And it goes into an observable and back into the service, and it goes to both lists. And like I said, while we go into this presentation, I'll show you how everything works. So the first thing we need to do is import HTTP client module in Angular, as we see here, and under the app module. So if you go here on your navigation bar, we can go here and say app module.ts, and we can put it anywhere we want. We can just add it here in the bottom. You may have to change the comma here. Sometimes doesn't render out the right way, and we have to do that. And here it shows you everything you need to do, where to put it, and how to add it in. So for imports, we need to add in the HTTP client module as well into this one, client module, and don't forget a comma here. And then in the provider, we have to add in the student service because that's what we're going to be using. So if we go to providers and we do student services, and it'll finish it for you. So you just go down here and pick, I believe to pick this one, which is sort app student services. Click that one, and that should be it for this part. The next one, we have to declare dependencies for the services. Now, to do that, we need to go into the actual student service TS file to add in those dependencies. So if we go here, we save that, go back here, and into the constructor, we add in private HTTP colon HTTP client. Now this is like, if you're familiar with Java, adding in this one is adding like a private variable for certain things. So we add it into the constructor for this one. So we copy that and add in here. You can just do that. This we're probably going to have to HTTP client right here, this one. Click on that, and once we do that, we have to add get students to return the HTTP client that we're trying to grab. And all this will be explained as we go along. So we need to add in now in the, we do get student. You can add student or students. I'm just going to copy exactly what's on the presentation. And we return this dot HTTP dot get. Now it's going to give you an error because we need to add in the get, and we need to add things to it. So as we go along, we have to add data into our quote-unquote database. So what we need to do is make a JSON file under assets, and we make a folder called data, and then in that folder we make a student.json file. So how we do that is go down here into assets, right click, or you can go up here and add a folder and name it data, and then in here click that, that's the file, and we do student.json file. So in there we copy this information. Now this is exactly the same information we have for the student details and the student list. And the only thing we're going to do is add it in here in order for it to work, as I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So as well here, save that, and we continue. So here we have to make a URL. The URL is basically the link between the database that we made and the use of the services. So if we go to the student service and add in on top of here private underscore URL, I think it's colon, right? Yeah, colon string equals, and then we just put in the where it's located. So assets slash data slash student.json. Once we do that, it should have we should add in our URL here. So this dot URL, because we're grabbing it from the data. So this is just returning the HTTP, and it's grabbing the URL in order for it to grab all the components into the from the database. So as we go on, now we have to add an observable. Now an observable is how it's said. It's to observe and show what we need to do in order to make the components work. So what we need to do is add an observable into the student class. So first we need to make a student.ts file. Now what a student.ts file is not the same as what we made. What we made was a student.service.ts file. Now we just make a student.ts file. Now what that is an interface. So student.ts. This is an interface in order to so for the components to understand what's what. So here we export the interface of student interface, and we had an ID, a name, and an age in order for it to understand what the three components are in our data for details or for lists, whatever we're looking at. So we just copy and paste that there, no problem. And now we go back to student.ts services, or student services.ts, my fault. And we add in here the next observable. So we go here and we add in observable, and we can just find it here. What was it called? Yeah, observable. And I can't spell today. Observable. Is that right? There we go, like that. And then we have to add in the student interface in there, the one that we just used. Student stu interface, and then we use an array because we have an array of JSON strings in there, or JSON info data in there. So it has to be an array. So then we return this http.get student interface as well here. So we do stu interface. Is it the same? Yeah, interface, like that, an array. And that should fix all the problems here. As we move on now, we have to subscribe. So the subscribe is think of it as getting information from somewhere else. The analogy I've seen before is like if you subscribe to a magazine article and you get all the information that and they keep sending you different what's it called, volumes or different types of magazines every month, every week, whatever you subscribe to, and it's just grabbing it all and bringing it back to you basically. So now we have to go and add in that into each of the components classes. So if we go to student list, and now we don't need this here. We can just get rid of that. And then here we add in private student service, and we add student service like that. And then in here we add in, actually here we do this dot student service dot get student dot subscribe, and then in here we add in data equals colon this dot student again equals, sorry, my camera just went out. So as we see here, we do student equals data. So basically, explaining all this quickly, let's see, student, it's student, right? This dot students, and subscribe data, this dot student data. It's going, oh, subscribe, oh, my bad, I added an underscore for the subscribe. So what this is doing is does that need return? No, it doesn't. So what's going on here is this dot student services right here is grabbing the students from the student services right here, get students, and is subscribing the data into the students here, these students right here, and it's adding in the data for it to work and pop up into the screen. So we do that for this one, and we also do it for the student dot. So if we do that right here, we do the exact same thing here, and that's it. I think that again has to be student services like that. And now we go here and we refresh it, and as you can see, oh wait, yeah, it can't be reached because it has to ng serve-o, and then again, and then we just let it compile and give a few seconds for it to compile. And as you can see, everything's working. And you're thinking, oh, it looks the exact same. Well, yeah, it is the exact same. However, now that we've made this JSON file in order to grab the information, we don't need to go from component to component in order to change the different information or data that you add. So again, I'm going to take out John here, delete John, and then we save. And then now if we refresh, you can see that John isn't there anymore. And if we Control Z and see again, you can see John is in both detail, student list and student details. So we can even add in more information. We can add in another person. We could do ID 9, and we can do name, and then we can do what name, say Charles, right? And we do age in quotes, and then we say he's the oldest out of everyone here, 24 years old, right? So we save that, and as you can see, Charles is there. Charles is also in the list. So what the services do is basically give you a way to add in information without, like I said, changing components to components. In this way, it saves memory, it saves you time as a coder, and it is super efficient for getting things done quicker and more efficiently. It's a little bit confusing at first, but as you get into it and as you understand more, do your research and understand a lot about the services, it can be a very powerful tool in order to make your code, make your websites, work with backend, and much more. So that concludes the tutorial on Angular service. Thank you for watching, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.